Well, I don't know about you, but I really wish Jesus had not just said that. Particularly since I'm preaching and not Whitney, I wish Jesus had not said that. To be honest, I find it very inconvenient for me that Jesus did just say that. Particularly today, it's Celebration Sunday, as I said here at St. John's. It means summer vacation's over, everybody's starting real life back up, and that includes church. Welcome back, by the way. Perhaps there's even some new families here looking for a new church. Maybe they have their kids because they want to raise them right, and mom and dad are doing this hard thing of giving up some time and investing a little family time in order to build their families up, and their reward is Jesus telling their kids that they have to hate mama and daddy. You see how very inconvenient for me it is that Jesus just said that. Now, there are times when I read the Bible, and like today, I wonder, does Jesus not have any idea how hard it is to grow a church these days? I know he lived 2,000 years ago, but there's soccer on Sundays now. Does Jesus not know that people have options? Does he not know that, one of the reasons that people oftentimes come, if they're families, to church is because they really do want to build those families up right, which makes what he said just kind of a PR disaster. And yet what's crazier is that Jesus throws this stuff out here precisely when we're told that he himself is doing very, very well. I don't know if you caught that, but at the very beginning of the gospel lesson, it says, large crowds are following Jesus. I bet no more. In fact, every time there's a large crowd around Jesus, he almost always tells them something to make many of them turn away. Now, I oftentimes say that if you are following Jesus and you never struggle with anything that Jesus ever has to say, whatever it is that you are following, it most certainly is not Jesus. And what I mean by that is if Jesus just fits perfectly into your existing worldview with no need for any adjustment whatsoever, the way that you view the world, your politics, your this, your that, everything's just so neat and tidy and it never comes at you at all. If it fits in with all your own agendas, no need for adjustment. Whatever it is that you're following, it most certainly is not Jesus. And yet, even though I say that a lot, I didn't exactly have this in mind: hate your mother and father. Give away all of your possessions, or you cannot follow me. Go get yourself a cross. We live in a world that is full of small print. Small print, that place where the truth really resides, but in a place where you're never really going to find it. Every time I update anything on my computer or my phone or whatever, I agree to something. I scroll through page after page of small print, written by Sam Darby or some lawyer like him, and for all I know, I'm selling my daughter Madeline into indentured servitude if I make Apple mad or something. And yet there I am, just agreeing to it, because I can't make heads or tails of all that small print. And I just assume, probably like you, that it's all just going to be okay. And yet, what do you want to bet? That if I ever do cross Apple the wrong way, that small print will no longer remain quite so small. What do you bet if Google gets displeased with Eric, a team of lawyers will descend on me like a pack of hyenas on a wounded water buffalo? There's an image for you. Of course, I have no idea what I would have to do in order to make that happen. And that's the beauty of small print. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but churches can have some small print too. When you come, we have greeters. They say, "Oh, we're so glad you're here. Come on in, relax, ignore that offering plate passing just underneath your nose. Here, have some gourmet coffee, and of course the biggie, how can we meet your needs?" So if you start off like you've come into Burger King or something, you can have it your way. like all states. You're in good hands, like State Farm. St. John's is there like a good neighbor. Now, don't get me wrong, there is truth in all of that, very intentionally so. It's just that it's not the whole story. And those of you who've been around any church for a while know that you really get the whole story after you've been around for a little while. That's when we bring out the small print. Okay, we need some Sunday school teachers, board members, workers for our Christmas outreach program. It's pledge time. We need some of your nights volunteering with the youth group. Here, have a committee. The small print. To which someone could rightly say, whoa, what happened to all this meeting my needs stuff? To which someone honest would then have to say, I'm sorry, that really wasn't Christianity that was being fed to you back then. That was an American marketing technique commandeered in order to make Christianity look like something other than what the founder of Christianity says that Christianity actually is, making it just look like one more American religion worshiping at the almighty altar of me. And so I think, as inconvenient as it is, despite the threat that it might be to securing great crowds in our churches, maybe we ought not lie about what being a part of a church actually is and put it in small print. Because as we hear today, Jesus has zero use for small print. He's never going to lie to you in order to sucker you in. No, he'll tell you all the inconvenient truths right up front, even when, maybe especially when, great crowds are following. See, we think great crowds, the dream. Great crowds, what every church wants. Great crowds, how you better judge your clergy. Great crowds following us on Facebook and Twitter. Great crowds. And yet every time that there's great crowds around Jesus, he always starts bringing out some statements like this and a whole lot of questions. And the first always is, hey, great crowds, you're following me where? Where do you think that we're going here? Because, see, it turns out that where Jesus is going is towards Jerusalem. He set his face to Jerusalem, and he's going there to confront the things wrong with this world, the powers that be in this world, religious, societal, political even. He set his face to go there, and he knows that that confrontation is not going to go very well, and that it very well may mean, as it does when you tell the powers that be in this world things that they don't want to hear, they will hang you out to die. And so he knows where he's going is also the cross. Do these great crowds intend to follow him there? Another question he has is, why are these great crowds following me in the first place? Are they following me because of the spectacle of miracles or the bounteous kind of free food that came from the meager bread and fish? Water and wine, divine goodies. Why do great crowds follow anything or anyone in our world usually? And he wants to know, are they willing to follow and join him in confronting the things wrong in this world? Even if that means confronting things wrong in their own families or their own lives. Hard truths that have to be owned up to, hard realities that have to be pushed through if the world actually is ever really going to change. Will they follow him even if it costs them something? Even in an age when sacrifice doesn't pull real well. In an age when the great question is, how will you meet my needs? See, Jesus is walking a way of sacrifice, and great crowds, of course, are following him on this way, and yet the question is, are they really following him? Because, see, Jesus knows where he's going, And it's this hard way of dealing with hard truths and real sacrifice at tremendous cost, and it's not going to meet even one of his needs. He is that king that he talks about going into battle, and he knows that they're not going to offer him any peace treaties. And thus Jesus decides just to be honest, because Jesus doesn't do small print. But still that word that just won't go down, hate. The word that maybe you demand your kids never use, hate. The word that Jesus demands today his followers do, hate. What is perhaps a relief to remember that the Bible wasn't written in English. And as such, it doesn't always translate real well. In the Bible, love and hate are action words. Okay? These are words that express a decision being made. They talk about how you pick one thing and choose to not pick another thing for what you give your life to in this world. Now, we modern folk have infused the words love and hate with nothing but emotion. I mean, you think about this is totally how we talk about love, totally passively. It's not ever something really we do, it's something we feel. I fell in love with you. Couldn't help it, struck by lightning. Was a bystander to it, really. The butterflies just came, flying around inside until they decide to fly away, and then I'll fall out of love with you. See, the Bible has no such emotional kind of Pepe Le Pew concept of love or hate. For the Bible, those are choices. I choose to love you. I'm not always feeling it for you, but I choose to still love you. I go to the cross out of love for you. I don't feel maybe that you are deserving of it, but still I actively, with all that I am, will live out love for the benefit of you. And conversely, I will choose to disregard this other thing if it seeks to interfere in any way with my love for you. This other thing, if it wrongly seeks to control me or to have a claim that says it's ultimate on me, I will not allow that to be. I will actively decide that in order for me to actively love you, I have to actively turn away from something else if it asks me to bow down to it with all my love and heart and will. And turning away from this other thing in order to actively love something else is translated today very inconveniently for me as hate. Maybe it makes a bit more sense if I put it this way. Say you really love Jesus, and you're a young person, and it's not, you love Jesus in some kind of emotional way, but you looked at the world, and it's not really what Jesus can do for you, but you really, in looking at the world, think that what the world needs is this way of Jesus, what he calls the kingdom of God, to more be done on earth as in heaven. You believe that that's the answer for what ails the world and you in it. But say your daddy has dreamed always for you and has plans for you that you're going to be a doctor. And I don't mean just any doctor. Your daddy wants you to be a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills, to make $1 zillion making people in Hollywood as plastic as Disney World. Now, I don't know why any dad would do that, but it's my story, so please just go along. What happens if you decide against your daddy's demands to give away that $1 million Harvard medical education and to not use it for riches, as he insists, and yet say give it away to women and children in need in the Sudan or something like that? See, what if you choose to hate the idea of merely using all that you've been given to give yourself more and more of what you really don't need? What if you choose to hate the idea of giving this world more and more of what it really doesn't need? All because you actively love Jesus and his way, because you actively want to follow that way even though you know that this following is going to cost you something very dear. Well, if you were to do that, today that's what the Bible would inconveniently translate as love and hate. Of course, still granted, it's a very hard truth. And yet I'm not going to try to wipe it away, because here's the truth too. It's the gospel truth. Following Jesus may mean that you have to give up some things. Even things you think you really, really love. And knowing this to be true, Jesus isn't going to beat around the bush, because Jesus doesn't do small print. Which means while membership in American Express has its privileges, membership in the Church of Jesus Christ has costs. That is the small print. If you really want to follow Jesus, it's going to cost you something. It just will. And it just should, because it's worth something. And if it's not costing you anything, whatever it is that you're following, it isn't him. But if you follow through with this hard thing, what I can promise you is that you will finally find a life that is big enough to finally be worthy of that word, life. And in this world, that's a very rare thing. A life of active love for something other than you. An active love for something other than the wrong things. An active love for something, someone finally, that is worthy of you and your love, despite its many costs. Amen.